Hey, let me live. Microphone looks good. Hey, what do we got? Got Tyvar. Took yesterday off. Thank you, Chocobo. Took yesterday off. Rex's event went live in Opera Omnia, so I was doing that. Still need to do a bunch of farming. Still need to kill the stupid dragon from the Shiva event. In the actual Shiva event, I beat it in Dare to Defy, and that's feeling more and more like a miracle that shouldn't have happened the more I struggle with the second iteration of this boss, since they should be identical, and the Dare to Defy is actually harder because of the restrictions on the characters you can use. But even using the same team, I've not been able to get it back into position to kill it. So, it's been super frustrating. I think I've got like a team I can copy that's taking a different tack on how to kill it. From watching a somebody I'd never seen before on YouTube, but they've got a build and they're trying to kill the boss in a completely different sequence than I am. So I might be able to copy that. But the boss has so many, well, not so many, it has one very random element to it on top of all of its other things. So even copying somebody else's playthrough is super difficult sometimes because the turn order gets all messed up. Anyway, enough about Opera Omnia. If I could stream it, I would, but none of my devices want to work properly right now with my computer to like capture. Yeah, my capture card that does work on some things has not worked on any of my mobile devices, which has been sad and depressing. But anyway, we got Tyvar. Last time we cut some things that I initially thought were just going to go in the deck and live in the deck and be part of it. Um, Specifically, we cut a bunch of the Hardened Scales effects, including Hardened Scales itself. We did leave in certain ones. Obviously, Kami of the Whispered Hopes stays in because it's already a mana dork that makes more mana based on its power anyway. So it was always going to get played in this deck because that's what Tyvar works best with right now, I think. Aside from elves that do that, and there are only three elves, four elves. It's Marwyn, Gyre Sage, Sylvala. What was the other one I was starting to think of and then backed off on? Because we also have the Kami, the Clear Cutter, and the Heron Blade. I think there was Joiner Adept. That was the other elf. Okay, so yeah, we've got seven creatures that tap for mana based on power. Sylvala cares about the highest power, but once she activates, she will be the highest power because she'll have two more than whatever our highest power creature was up until that point. So, so yeah, we've got seven, and four of them are elves. Three of them are non-elves. So that is the best we are going to do with that. I still have to decide if we want to run like the super cheap Lalmore. Like the three Lalmore elves are among the most questionable cards in this deck, but they do come out early, help us ramp, um, get to gain power and death touch from Tyvar, and also we have both survival of the fittest and the creature survival of the fittest to discard them to tutor for our more powerful cards, and a natural order, and we're running Craterhoof Behemoth. So right now they're staying, but we're at 127 cards, so half the cards on this list plus seven additional ones have to go from the non-land cards on that we have. So I was about to say on the list again, but I started with on this list, so excuse me. So yeah. Alright. We were looking at our tutors also last time, in addition to our thing. So these are the tutors that I left in so far. We have 9 tutors. It's possible we could cut tooth and nail. I don't think we're going to, because getting something like Craterhoof Behemoth and Ronus is pretty silly. I'm just going to give all my creatures plus X and trample, then double their power. And that's not a problem at all. At least not for me. We also have a couple other overrun type creatures. Although we are not a token deck, so I have to make sure I don't cut too many creatures from the deck. Otherwise, we run the risk of not actually winning the game when we play Craterhoof Behemoth. Yeah, that actually pushes in favor of the Awaken the Woods. I wasn't sure if we were going to keep or not. Because it does. It's an X spell that makes X creatures, and I don't think there are any other of those in green, now that I'm thinking about it. Like, are there any other X spells in green that make X creatures? There is the one where the offering one where like you and opponent each make an XX, and then you and an opponent each make X1/1s. I wonder if we want that actually. I'm trying to think if there are any others. Because like actually attempted murder from Unfinity. I was just thinking that. I was like, that one's blue, right? It's like, no, it's black, because it makes the blue Stormcrow tokens, but it can also kill a creature. So if X is high enough, we might randomly get a bunch of 1/2 flyers and kill a creature. Yeah, I'm wondering if we don't want that also. That one's very random, but at the same time, they're an evasive pile of token creatures. I would like it a lot more if it did something to kill the opponent as the black half, or as the, instead of killing a creature, if it could, deal damage or cause life loss for every die roll that comes up, the non-creature one. Because a lot of the time we are just going to want to make the creatures and not care that it's a creature kill spell specifically. Like, we would just rather have X1/2 flyers than anything else. I don't want to go like full tokens though with the deck. So, but I don't want to not have enough creatures for Craterhoof Behemoth to actually kill the table when we cast him. And unfortunately, this deck is full of small creatures that don't make more creatures, so that might become an issue. Yeah, we don't have anything along the lines of like deranged hermit or whatnot, so to just put a bunch of bodies down while still being an elf itself for our cards. Hey, I think the next thing we have to do is check the removal, though. I think removal is the area where we have the most room to cut things left in the deck, so. Alright, we will add Withering Boon, since it is meant to functionally take out a creature. So, it falls into the removal category. Elvish Piper, Maul, Reborn Muse, Fierce Empath, Symbiote. It's our O Stone for when we need a reset button. Ready and Joiner now. Witness, Staff, Patron, Age. Oh, there's Slaughter Pack. I was gonna say, we don't seem to have as much removal on this list as I normally do, or as I thought we were going to. But I'm starting to find it now, so... Old Maelstrom Pulse. Speaker, Death Mantle, Praetor's Council, Beast Within. Praetor Hoof, Soul of the Harvest, Sage, Bow. Yeah, the bow's not in here to be a removal spell. It can kill small flyers, but it is definitely in here for the put counters on my guys and put cards back into my deck from the graveyard. Goes Downfall. Sasquatch, Armorcraft, Intervention. Again, Ballista's not in here to be removal. It can act as removal, but it's very difficult for it to kill anything of any significant size, so it can only really kill small utility creatures. And is mostly in here for when we start generating titanic amounts of mana just to kill our opponents with. Although at that point it also is more likely to be removal also. I feel like it's more of a combo piece though than a removal spell in our deck. Beloved Casualties of War. I can't not run this in a black-green deck. Murderous Rider. Okay, I didn't accidentally cut Casualties, because I did almost accidentally cut one of the other ones over here, like, I think it was Downfall or something. Alright, Barrier Breach is in for enchantment removal right now. Tyvar, Circle of Dreams, Druid. Class, Sunrise. These are removal. Silverback is a naturalize and is in here partially for that. Clear Cutter, Jubilant Brawler, Kami, Yozalith again. I had to double check to make sure Sorak and Goreclaw were, like, didn't have anything to do with fighting. I didn't think that they did, but I could not remember exactly what they were doing. And it's giving haste and trample. You know, the two things the rest of my deck kind of really wants. Yeah, Vivian's a naturalize for 5 mana, and or a plummet, and then can do other stuff, so she makes the list. Bramble Sovereign, Force of Vigor is who naturalizes in a trench coat. Dreadlord. Dreadlord is removal. Like, he is in the deck because he would kill a large number of other creatures, potentially. Oh, Bane of Progress. Yeah, we probably have the ability to cut, like, the one Barrier Breach. I was gonna say the one from Mycoria. It does get rid of 3 enchantments at once, but we have a bunch of things that can destroy 2 or more enchantments at a time, so... We have a Vitriol. Also Song of the Dryads. Hang on, both of those are removal. And Freyleys. And Bane of Progress. Okay. Get Bane of Progress off this list, and let's just copy all of these as a single iteration. Because I am getting close to running out of room as we get towards the bottom. When Grace's Judgment is removal. The Staff of Titania. Clamvus, or whatever his name is. Or Shaker. Alright. Let's go removal. Scroll all the way to the bottom. Or we start with Withering Boon. O-Stone. Slaughter. Maelstrom. Beast. Downfall, Trophy, Casualties, Rider. Add the Breach, even though I'm pretty sure we're cutting it at this point. Silverback, Eric's Wake, Speed, Vigor, Dreadlord, all of those, and Judgment. Okay. So that gives us a big old pile of removal. We have almost 20 cards here. We can definitely cut a bunch of them. We have the Bane of Progress that can kill all artifacts and enchantments. I don't think we actually need Ancient Silverback then, and he kind of needs to be followed up with a creature, like, almost immediately, in order to make sure we get our value out of him, so I think he can go. I do think Barrier Breach can go. Can find that and pull it off the list. Is I don't think Barrier Breach is necessary with everything else that we have that can kill artifacts and enchantments. Right now we can leave Fraley's and Vivian on, but I don't think we need both of them. We might not even need either of them, but they're both fine in the deck. Their ability to remove problematic permanents and to get me more creatures are both very good, and the fact that both of their ultimates are doable with doubling season in play, so we can just, spike the Planeswalker and immediately use the ultimate. I do appreciate Fraley's just making tokens that are then, functionally Laumore Elves and just tap for mana, get the counters from Tyvar, gain Death Touch when they attack. Let's see. So our creature removal, we have Withering Boon, Slaughter Pact, Maelstrom Pulse, Beast Within, Hero's Downfall, Trophy, Casualties, Murderous Rider, Garrick's Wake. Vivian can, but she's very limited in that, and that's not the primary reason she's in here. Song of the Dryads, Windgrace's Judgment. We have 11 creature kill spells. Yeah, I think we can cut a couple of them. We have enough mana production. I don't think we need Slaughter Pact. There will be times where it would still be helpful being 0 mana, but I think if we remove the Slaughter Pact, we might have to cut the Withering Boon for space again. Like, I keep putting it on the list, and I do know why I should be giving it more consideration when running it. There are definitely times where the creature just coming down in the first place is way more of a problem than the creature being in play right now. But you actually have to have Withering Boon in hand at that time, and outside of a blue deck, this is literally only going to be your only counter spell, and trying to figure out exactly what the thing to hit with it is can be difficult. If it's not a play group you know very well, and you know what their decks have, and what things you would need to be saving Withering Boon for, if you're not going to counter the Sheoldred the Apocalypse, because you're not drawing tons of cards, and what are you going to counter? Because you're still drawing a card every turn. There are card draw spells in your deck that you want to hit, but maybe you can leave her in play and kill her with a removal spell, but it comes down to like knowing what the other problematic cards are that are going to show up. I guess guess we can cut Withering Boon, because it's one of those cards like I know I should be running it more often, and I don't, and that's probably incorrect. But I don't know what card I should be taking out for them instead. Like each time I cut Withering Boon, what other card should be going? Because it does fit into the removal category. It's a very unique removal spell. Yeah. I think the more competitive the play group, the more important Withering Boon is. I don't think Tyvar is like absurdly competitive. I think he's just a decent deck. This feels like more one of my mid-range decks, like the type of decks I normally build, as opposed to being super competitive or super casual. And even then, super competitive for me isn't anywhere near competitive EDH most of the time. It's usually like 5 or 6 cards that are a nod to that, but nothing where it's like, oh yeah, no, I can easily deal with the insanity that is the most competitive aspect of this format. Because I've seen bits and pieces of that, and it seems actively miserable. Like, oh, I played my commander, and then my commander did a thing, and now you're all dead. Like, cool. That's neat. Yeah, I think one of the ones I saw was Godo, Bandit Warlord, and Helm of the Host. And it's just like, oh, I get to play it for free and then attach it with this card, and now you're just dead. Because I have infinite non legendary Godos that are giving me infinite combat steps. So yeah, there's, and that one doesn't even seem like one of the scarier ones because it actually revolves around getting the 2 cards, getting the card into play, tutoring up the 1 card, getting it attached to him, and unless he attaches for free too, maybe that's what happened. I'm thinking they had like a brass herald or something, but maybe it just attaches for free. Is it Godo, Bandit Warlord? Help me out here, Arena. Or Arena. Oh god. Yeah, Godo, Bandit Warlord. Enters the battlefield, search your library for equipment, put it on the battlefield. When it attacks, untap it. Okay, so they did have to attach it with something else that turn. But yeah, they just played Godo, tutored up the thing, gave themselves an extra combat step every turn, every time. Every time they went to combat, they made another Godo and gave themselves an extra combat step afterwards, and it just kept growing out of control. So, and that one didn't even seem like super scary because there's a chance to kill the helm and shut off the combo. But um, so yeah, getting back to what we are considering cutting. Yeah, I think I have more room in the artifact and enchantment pile though. It was very easy to cut barrier breach with all the things that we have that can kill that permanent type, but let's see. Ostone, Maelstrom Pulse, Beast Within, Assassin's Trophy, Casualties of War. Vivian is in here for that, so she's 6. Force is 7. Bane is 8. Freyleys is 9. Vitriol's 10. Windgrace is 11. Can Song of Dryads hit other things besides creatures? Cool. Gather is just like dragging along. Okay. Scryfall, help me out here. Song of the Dryad. Enchant permanent. So yeah, I can hit artifacts and enchantments if we need it to. Meanwhile, Gatherer is still trying to go back a page. So yeah, I think we have room to cut like one or two more naturalizes from the deck. So at that point, Force of Vigor can probably go. We have a lot more versatile removal. Yeah, black green and black white have the most versatile removal suite in Magic, just being able to hit almost every permanent or every permanent. Indicate. But yeah, actually being able to destroy basically anything and everything. We want to get rid of. We have Wave of Vitriol, but I don't want to get rid of too many of the cheap interactions because, I won't have to get to 7 mana to destroy like a 3 mana problematic artifact or enchantment that came down turn 3. So. One, two, three, four, 5 cards right now. Alright, let's cut those. So Force of Vigor, check. Withering Boon. Water Pact. Barrier Breach. Check. And Silverback. Okay. Cut those 5 cards off the list. That drops us down to 122. We're almost at the part where we only have to cut half the cards. So close. So very, very close. Hey. There's a part of me that's thinking I'm going to wind up cutting Fraley's and Vivian, which then makes me wonder if we're even going to bother with Nissa, who shakes the world. It does turn our lands into creatures that we can then attack with, and the creatures can tap for mana. You get an emblem with lands you control have indestructible. Search your library for any number of land cards, put them onto the battlefield, tap, then shuffle. I mean, it does help with her +1 because now all of the lands are can become indestructible creatures. And with doubling season, she could come in ultimate immediately and still be on 2 loyalty and maybe actually animate a bunch of the lands. Maybe. Alright, let's go through the list again. See if I can find anything else that probably shouldn't be in here. I'm wondering if we cut Soul Ring, actually, because we can't make it a creature, and we have so many other things that are coming into play and tapping for mana that even with the stronger mana production being a 1-drop that will tap for 2 immediately and then on subsequent turns give us a full 2 mana advantage. Might also be able to cut Priest of Titania. A lot of the fixed amount of mana creatures are a bit on the weaker side, especially when they need more creatures to be in play. Yeah, I was on a bit of a rant about this the other day, but we are so vulnerable to wraths in particular, and wraths are super common in Commander, so the idea of having to have like 3 or 4 creatures, especially of a specific type in play, because it's very easy for us to, play 4 creatures and for them to not all be elves. Like half of them, or maybe even only one of them, is actually an elf. Most of our creatures are elves, but we have enough low casting cost creatures that aren't elves where that could be a very real thing. I'm kind of scrolling through too fast while thinking. I want to make sure. I want to I don't want to cut the Archdruid. It's a silly dumb effect that feels like it just wins the game once we get it going. But it feels more obnoxious of a way to win, but at the same time, most of our creatures are druids. We have almost as many druids as we have elves in the deck. And that means we get to draw a card a lot of the time when we cast our creatures. And if we have enough druids, it randomly does it. I don't think we're actually going to get the 7 druids and steal the lands for the same reason that I'm worried about trying to get more than 4 elves in play for Priest of Titania. So, actually, that's true. At that point, at least 2 of them will be elves because one of them's probably Tyvar. So, that's okay. But we can keep the Gilt Leaf because we have enough druids, and then we'll get to draw cards off of casting them, and that is one of the ways to mitigate a wrath effect. Like, if we play a bunch of creatures and we draw a bunch of cards, then we should have more creatures to deploy after the wrath. Death Mantle. Council, Beast Within, Champion, Crater Hoof, Soul of the Harvest. We might actually be able to cut the Champion. Like, we're not a token deck, so we can't put a ton of creatures into play consistently, and we cut a lot of the Hardened Scales effects. So she's actually only going to be like a 3/3 or 4/4 a lot of the time until we overrun, and then she's relevant. But if we're overrunning, we have Trample, and on a lot of our creatures, we have Death Touch, so I don't know that I actually need her. And she's not an elf, and everything else going against her, so. Oh, Shaman of Forgotten Ways, Duskwatch Recruiter, Armorcraft Judge. Huh. I wonder if I need to look at our sources of card advantage in this deck. I might be leaving too many cards in that are overlapping in that area when we only need if we have 10 or 15 on the list, I might only need like 5 to 10 of them at that point. So it might be worth it to look at all of them and just keep the best ones. Because we have I think 6 or 7 cards that I'm currently aware of just from going back through the list that are one of our creatures coming into play or getting cast makes us draw a card. So then we have like 2 or 3 of the future sight effects for creatures. Alright, so we cut Champion of Lambolt. But yeah, I think I want to do another sub list for card advantage cards and start cutting some of the less important ones. So Scroll Rack. I mean, Scroll Rack kind of. We draw a bunch of cards, we put a bunch of cards back, we have fetch lands for days, plus survival and the survival creature. So yeah, that's basically card advantage at that point. It does draw us a bunch of cards and then shuffle away the cards we don't need pretty consistently. Actually, yeah, Yawgmoth's Will is on the list for the ability to cast. Like, this is a value Yawgmoth's Will, not a combo Yawgmoth's Will, so. Wall, Seaborn Muse, Fierce Empath, Tooth and Nail, Joiner, Witness, Glimpse of Nature, definitely. Yeah, Staff of Domination is not card advantage really until we're already winning the game. Then it is all of the card advantage, so it's more of a combo piece. Like, we are not going to spend. We would if we had nothing better to do, but we don't want to spend time going 5-tap, draw a card. That seems terrible. The top is card selection. Primordial Sage is card draw. Archdruid is in fact card draw. That's my primary motivation for leaving him on the list, so if he's not good enough for that, then we don't need to run him. Visionary is in here. It only draws us the one card at first, but it combos with all of the other things that are letting us draw cards for casting our creatures, and with cards that let us either return it to our hand or return it to the battlefield because it died, so I'm going to count it as card advantage at this point. Even though it's at its base a 1-for-1. It is in here for the idea that we will get to draw more than one card off of its existence in any given game of Magic. So, if that's the reason I'm putting it in here and it's not doing that, then it probably needs to be cut. Yes. Inspiring Call still. Like, yes, it's in here to save our creatures from removal, but it also draws us a whole bunch of cards when it does that, so I'm still going to count it. Yes to I'm looking at Armorcraft Judge, but yes to Duskwatch Recruiter, Armorcraft Judge. I do consider future side effects to be card advantage, because every time you cast a spell off of the top of your deck, you have drawn that spell functionally without actually having to draw it and deal with any of the things that punish you for extra card draws. Peace Whisper, Guardian Project, we're at 14 now. Out of the 24 I can have on the list. First Rider, Great Henge, yes. And Ozolith. Tyvar's only card draw on his ultimate, so that's not what we're running him for. If he gets there, we're happy, but... Okay, Ranger class. Yeah, I would count Shigeki. Did I put Praetor's Council on this thing? Because that is definitely getting me a ton of cards. Does not look like I did, so we do need to go back and grab Praetor's Council. I think I glossed over it. But yeah, the whole point is to put a ton of cards into my hand, so... Leaf Crown Elder, or Visionary, rather. I forget what Leaf Crown Elder is. I think it's a tree folk, but every time I start to say Leaf Crown, it immediately becomes Elder and not Visionary. Because that is the first thing I think of. Spire, Warclaw, Tribute to the World Tree. Hendros cards? Yeah, I suppose it is. It's a little bit counters, a little bit card draw. 19 of 24. Rex Sage, Soul. Yeah, Vivian Reed is in here to get me more cards with her plus. The Line of Abundance. Visionary might be the most cuttable out of the cards. Being 3 mana and only tapping for 1 is kind of a thing. Dreadlord, Kamal, Eve, Pathbreaker, Stonehoof. Herald's Horn is definitely in here for the extra cards. More so than its reduced casting cost. Alright, we just need Praetor's Council then. Hey, 23 out of 24. They're all card draw and large card selection. Alright, so these are our card advantage spells. Gorak, Will, Glimpse, Sage, Guiltleaf. These all list. I need to find Praetor's Council and then come back down here. Get to it. Soul of the Harvest. Revelation. Actually, I think that's... wait, hang on. Did we go to cons before we went to Scars of Mirrodin? I genuinely do not remember. I think we did, though. Praetor's Council goes there. Like, after Innistrad and before cons. Yeah. Revelation. Inspiring Call. Watch. Armorcraft. The Vizier. Guardian Project. Great Henge. Ranger Class. Geki. Visionary. Tribute. Vivian. Visionary. Herald's Horn. And that's everything. Okay. We have a ton of various card advantage things. So we do generate enough mana that the value Yawgmoth's Will is a very real thing. But I'm wondering if Shigeki and Praetor's Council aren't doing the same thing well enough that we don't need Yawgmoth's Will also. And Yawgmoth's Will does exile the other things and itself. If they go it exiles itself regardless, and it exiles the other things if it goes to the graveyard the same turn we cast Yawgmoth's Will, so. Yeah, I think with the other spells we can cut Will, although it is more powerful that turn because it only costs 3 mana, whereas we're spending like 7 on Praetor's Council and God only knows on Shigeki in order to get enough cards back to justify using him that way. Yeah, I feel like the Visionary is also going to go. Only getting to draw 1 card off of it, it costing 3 mana, and only taps for 1. Like, all of that is okay. None of it is great, so the entire package isn't particularly strong. Yeah, I think Tribute stays on Mostly for the things it does to enable combos with our mana dorks that tap based on their power and Cloudstone Curio and haste effects. More so than that it's a card draw thing, but it is also a card draw thing. If our creature comes in big enough, we just get to draw a bunch of cards, so. Alright, so Primordial Sage, Archdruid, Soul of the Harvest, Duskwatch Recruiter, Armorcraft Judge, Vizier of the Menagerie, Beast Whisperer. All of these are creatures that give us card advantage just for having access to creatures in the first place. So I think we want to focus on them more. So we probably want to make the cuts from the non-creature section. It's going to be hard to cut Glimpse with Cloudstone Curio because that combo I think is just way too good. Although if we have any of the other creatures already in play, they're basically Glimpse of Nature. Yeah, maybe we don't actually need Glimpse. I'm thinking that we do, but we have multiple creatures that function like Glimpse of Nature. So we don't have to go off in the turn that we play the thing that lets us draw cards for casting creatures. We can just play a creature or two and draw some cards. And then later on try and do the combos. Assuming not like all of our stuff doesn't explode, but I can't constantly go, well, all of our stuff's exploding, so otherwise this deck is just terrible. If we just assume that everybody's going to Wrath every other turn just because it's Commander, then we will, in fact, not even bother playing this deck. So the question then becomes, it's like, how do we mitigate the damage when the Wrath eventually does show up? So Guardian Project is, I think, one of the worst ones only because none of the other cards, we don't lose the other card because our opponent killed the creature that we put into play. We lose the extra card if they kill the creature. Like, some of them draw us a card when our non-token creature comes into play as opposed to his cast. So killing those would deny us the card, but would let us keep the creature that we're casting. Whereas Guardian Project, we lose out on the card if they kill the creature we cast. Assuming it goes to the graveyard and doesn't get exiled or something. There's an argument to be made for that one. There's an argument to be made for the Great Henge. But I think we have enough creatures and we're trying to get their power high enough that the Great Henge will frequently be about 4 to 5 mana to begin with. Out of the 9 that it usually is. So if it starts off at 9, we need a 5 power creature to get it down to 4 mana. So yeah, it's probably going to be a 5 drop a lot of the time when we cast it. Although, if we're really lucky, we'll have one of the creatures that's tapping for mana based on its power, so we'll tap that thing for mana first. Tyvar will add his counters onto it, then we figure out how expensive the Great Henge is and cast it. So we might actually be able to cast it for like 2 mana at that point, if they have more than 3 power. So, yeah, I think we leave the Great Henge. I think we cut the Guardian Project. Yeah, I think we cut Herald's Horn too. The biggest problem with a card like Herald's Horn is that not all of our deck is creatures. Not all of our creatures are the creature type. Like, we're going to have only 60 spells, so almost half the deck is a miss to begin with. And then, of those 60 spells, probably something around 20 to 25 of them are going to be non-creatures on top of that. Maybe a little bit lower. Maybe it's closer to like 15 to 20 in this deck, ideally. But we're going to be running all of these things that protect our creatures, let us draw from our creatures coming into play, like, and then out of those remaining like 25 cards, not all of them are going to be elves on top of that, or druids. So yeah, I think the Herald's Horn can just go. A lot of people get excited for cards like this in theme decks, like tribal decks. And if you actually manage to go all in on the tribe, or you have enough deck manipulation where you're constantly changing what's on top of your deck, so and can know that you're going to hit an elf, with some amount of consistency. Like we have top and we have um scroll rack, so if we were going to be running a lot more elves in the deck than we currently are, then yes, I would say Herald's Horn would get to stay for that reason. Like, we can just put the elf on top and exchange it for another card with Scroll Rack every turn if we don't cast that elf, and essentially draw a card for the activation of Scroll Rack in conjunction with Herald's Horn, like, literally every turn. Like, we put one card back, we know it's an elf, we reveal the elf, we draw the elf, then we draw for the turn, so we drew the card off of the scroll rack and the card for the turn, and we still have the elf in our hand, so it is drawing us an extra card every turn, but... Alright, so one... Oh, we have to actually kill all these off the list first, so... Ogmoss will... Oh, wait. Visionary. Because we have 2 Visionaries and 3... Or, I'm sorry. We have 7 Visionary? We have 7 Visions. Jukai Visionary. Wow, we have a ton of... Okay, maybe we have more Visionaries than we have things from Llanowar. Maybe I just needed to type out the whole name for that one. Okay. Glimpse. Go. The Guardian Project. Herald's Horn. Okay. 3 or 5 more cards off the list. Down to 116. Where are we at? We're almost at the hour mark. Um, yeah, I think we can stop here. I'm at the hour mark, and I've been trying to keep the videos down to an hour, so the debate is, did I want to go another hour right now? And I think I want to call it for now and probably play some Magic in a little bit, so I'll take a little bit of a break, come back in like an hour or so, and we'll probably just draft March of the Machine, but maybe they've been doing a bunch of other random like quick draft sets recently. There might be some other stuff going on, so maybe. Also, I think I missed a midweek Magic this week, but it's a little too late for it now. That's like a free roll Phantom Draft or something, but with one of the older sets. Or Phantom Sealed. Anyway, so that'll do it for me for right now. Yeah, I'll be back on in an hour or so, most likely, and we'll draft some March of the Machines or whatever else is there. If there's something else cool, we'll do that instead. But thanks for watching, and I will see you next time. Have a good rest of your day.